I want to quickly also bring in Gurjit Singh on the issue of Canada. These are words that we're discussing, of course, of the Canadian Prime Minister. He said what he said. I'm sure behind closed doors, India would have had, things to say too. And do you feel the Indian government would have once again, they've said it, for example, External Affairs Minister has said it in public about the domestic political support that Khalistani sympathizers get in Canada for reasons they best know. But do you think behind closed doors, India has the heft to impress upon Canada even more today?
So 3 quick points. The bilateral with Trudeau was held only for this purpose, to tell him that what he is doing is inadequate and unacceptable. Had this not been an issue, I don't think a bilateral with Trudeau would even have taken place. The fact that we had that bilateral shows how important this issue is to us. Second, Trudeau does not understand fringe politics. He is allowing a lunatic fringe to become mainstream and still thinks it's a fringe. Now, this understanding really needs to change. Thirdly, Trudeau is putting a relationship with India, which you can see a rising, emerging India, at stake purely for his own political future, which he believes is dependent on these people in his country. Yes, let them have freedom of speech, but let them not attack people of India.
Yes.
Let them do whatever they want in Canada. But you cannot come and threaten India like this. Then you should be prepared for appropriate retaliation.
Okay, Terry, you talked about what practical steps will the Canadian government take. And, you mentioned, of course, how diplomats have been targeted with death threats, with posters that are being released with impunity, seriously. And all we saw, for example, when that happened, and you discussed it with CNN News 18 at that time as well, was that a little bit of the security of the diplomats was increased. Now, that's not going to cut it. That's not going to, be okay for India anymore. That has had much better support from London and much better support from Australia on the issue of Khalistani sympathizers. Do you feel that there could be pressure mounting at all on the Canadian government to do more? And if so, what is it that they could do?
Yes, I think that pressure is mounting now as a result of there will be some postmortems on this G20 summit, with Trudeau relegated to having this brief 10-minute pull-aside meeting. Okay, well, we'll agree to meet with you at the G20, but make it quick. That's the tone of the relationship now between Modi and Trudeau. Not very healthy, really. And the issue now that you're raising is the real issue. What actual action will Canada take? For example, last time around we discussed the killer posters, labeling Indian diplomats as killers in the assassination of Mr. Nijjar out in British Columbia. Well, at the time, the Foreign Minister Melanie Joly made a fine statement saying this is unacceptable. These posters are unacceptable. And what did Canada do? Canada accepted them. The very next day, after saying they were unacceptable, we allowed them to be carried, those posters, to be carried through the streets of downtown Toronto and Vancouver. So we didn't do anything about it. We didn't go to the municipal authorities and say, why are you giving a parade permit to these people to carry these? Well, let's think of ways we can fight back and do more. Look at what Rishi Sunak did, for example. All he did was make a statement that, look, there is no space for extremism in Britain. Now, if we heard the same language from Trudeau, it wouldn't cost him very much, but it could achieve a great deal. It did very well for Rishi Sunak, did it not? It became a hero in India. Well, why can't Trudeau say, look, these people have gone too far, we're going to stop this, we're going to act, and that would sound pretty good in India, wouldn't it? Okay. But so far, we still haven't taken even that rhetorical step, and India is going to want to see practical steps in addition to the rhetorical.
Yes, and when Canadian Prime Minister talks about rule of law, certainly he also means that the death threats of the kind we've seen or the glorification of the assassination of an Indian Prime Minister does not fall in the permit of a peaceful protest with the right message or rule of law. Gurjit Singh ji, final minute left. A very quick question about the Canadian complaints of foreign government intervention that they keep piling on India. Of course, Justin Trudeau was quick to also slip in the fact that they raised this with India. What's happening here?
I wonder what's happening. Because I think if you are going to use the Indian diaspora for your political ends, please remember that India also has a reach into the diaspora. And therefore, as I mentioned earlier, there would be counter-reaction.
Yes.
But I think my co-panelist, the journalist from Canada, I think his government needs to listen to him more. He seems to understand the situation quite clearly.
Well, he's quite an expert on the Khalistani movement in Canada. Terry, any final words? Very quickly, please.
Yeah.
Well, I would simply say, watch what Trudeau does, not what he says.
Absolutely.
Does he take action to stop these people and to make them think twice before parading through the streets with a tableau of the assassination of Indira Gandhi? That has to be unacceptable in practice, not just in rhetoric.
Absolutely. And the relationship between India and Canada could well be at stake. So that is a realization that the Canadian authorities should have. Gurjit Singh and Terry Milewski, thanks a lot for sparing your time and joining us.